Okay, everybody is here with courage, a lot of courage. Can you close the door, please? So we go now to chapter 2, paragraph 33. When we left, we saw that the first principle are attached to the three characteristics of being. The principle of identity, non-contradiction, middle excluded, they are attached to the one. Principle of sufficient reason attached to and causality attached to the intelligible, and finally the principle, the last one, the finality is attached to the bonum, because we are desiring the good. We know to the intellect. Now in this second hour, we work on the principle of being. What make a being a being? Okay? Especially a finite being, because we are in the domain of the finite being. We don't speak about God now. We speak about a finite being. So first, the word principle. The word principle design a starting point, the first in the line, in the series, or also designates the cause of a series. It is that from which something in some way proceeds. For example, the first, the principle of automobile, the one who did the first automobile, that's the principle in the series or the starting point of being. But anyway, we have to study the constituent of being. But you see, being is being. Yes, but finite being is what makes difference between finite beings and infinite being, for example. So number 33.1. Apart from this transcendental notion, one, true and good, being, the science of metaphysics also investigates the intrinsic principle of the subject of being in the external relationship between beings. So, the intrinsic principle, what constitutes a being in itself. Because such study enables us to explain three things. First, how there can be more than one being. That is the problem of the one and the many. The one and the many. I can explain that I am one, but at the same time I have many powers, I have many fingers, I have many organs, and I am one. You know? That is a big question. Secondly, how being can be limited? What can limit being? Because being in itself, the concept of being, existence, has no limit in itself. And finally, three, how these many beings, while differing from one another, can still be similar as being. How I can say, for example, that a cockroach, a flea, and a dinosaur and a man are being. They are quite different. How I can say that a neutron, a proton, is a being, and the Saturn is a being, or a sun is a being. Okay? So among the intrinsic principle, the constituent within, we have potency and act, essence and existence. So this is what we explained soon, potency and act, essence and existence. It is the object of that hour now. And the extrinsic principle or external relationship are causality. Causality from efficient cause and final cause. And also another idea, the idea of participation. For example, we participate in the life of God. God is the source of life, and we are living. Well, we study that. And the idea of participation is very important in theology, natural theology. So first, potency and act. Well, to understand potency and act, maybe we should come back to the theory of isomorphism. In ile, in Greek, ile means matter, matter, and morphe, form. It's a morphology, the study of form. Et ile, matter. So matter and form. Aristotle was a scientist. He was interrogated, he was preoccupied by the phenomenon of change. Change. In fact, we have many phenomena where we see thing becoming other thing. We have a word in English for that. They are they are transformed. Transform. Okay, the classical example I use in class many times. Wood, I have a tree. What is the difference between tree and wood? The tree is living. He has a form of life. He can grow, he can assimilate. The wood, is it the wood living? No. When we cut the tree died. And we have wood. But that wood can become many things. I can transform the wood of the tree in many things. I can make paper. I can make charcoal. In Haiti, they do transform tree into charcoal. I can transform that into furniture, bed, table, desk, etc. So there is a matter. That matter, matter can become many things. Why the matter of the tree that was cut maybe, I don't know, in Southwest Virginia, is now a desk? Because the carpenter has an idea and he put into the matter, into the wood, he put the form of a desk. When I say form, is not that form. The form is the perfection, is the idea. He put an idea, a perfection, a determination. It is no more planks of wood. It is a desk. It is a table. It is a chair. It is a bed. It is a door. Okay? So that is the theory we call illimorphism or isomorphism. And that theory is, by analogy, transposed when we speak about being. In fact, before studying metaphysics, we study normally philosophy of nature, because we know first thing of nature, and we see nature change, and we see that what is change. Change, in fact, is the transformation of things. We take the form of a thing and we put another form in the thing. Transform. And the word form is so used in our life. Form, information. The formation of priest. Formation. What is formation? To give a form. To give a form, a formation of soldier, formation of priest. It's not the same form. It's different. You know? And information. Television gives you information. Take the form, put that in your mind. You remember? So that is it is, if you want, the foundation, not the foundation, but the way we arrive to study act and potency. Well, if I look at the body of man, for my person, my old person, or even the desk here, we have the same thing, always the same thing. We have something which is indeterminate, we call matter. For example, my body is made with trillions of cells of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, etc. My body is that. Okay? And all that is put together by a form. So, my body is informed by my soul. Okay? When my soul is informing my body in such a way that my atoms are no more the atoms of a cow I ate, or they are not the atoms of a fruit I ate, but they are my atoms. What happened? The soul determined my body. The soul actualized my body. It makes my body not only an aggregation of atoms, it makes my body, a living body. You know? So here we can say that my soul, in regard of my body, is actualizing, is the act. But my body, the cell, all the cell, etc., all the structure of my body was in potency. Well, think about, look at your ends. My end is made with cells, you know? 100 years ago, where were those cells? Did they exist?
No.
No. Therefore, your body is a creation. In physics, in chemistry, especially in chemistry, we see nothing is created, nothing is annihilated, everything is transformed. Principle of Lavoisier. The conservation of matter. And in Lavoisier. In fact, those cells existed, they are not created. They are made with hydrogen. If I have to write the Bible today, I will say, at the beginning, God created hydrogen.
But I think you exist in form of information, from my point of view. You were information. Information that your parents, they brought together and create you as a human being.
Yes, okay. I will continue. Okay. So what is the soul? I go to my desk. I have wood, plate of wood, and I have a desk. So the desk was the matter, and the form is the idea of desk. But in fact, the wood, before becoming a desk, the wood was, I will write here, in potency. The wood today is a desk, but before it was in potency, because if the wood was not in potency, it cannot become a desk. For example, water cannot become a desk. You know? So there is something indeterminate in the matter, and that will be determined by the idea of desk, and that we say the act. In fact, the carpenter actualized, made the wood into a new reality, which is a desk. It's the same for my soul. In philosophy of man, we study that. The soul is the principle determining the form, determining my matter. That means, if I die, the matter is still there. When you die, your body is still there, no? But it is not it's no more your body. And the proof of that, in a few years, it will become dust, even in a few minutes. You know? What makes you? Yourself, it is your soul. Scientists, they say that about every 7 years, our cells are regenerated. So my body is my 11th body. I have 11 body. But I am the same. I am still living. So I have a principle of actualization of man. So what is potency? What is matter? By analogy, we compare potency to matter. If you understand that the wood is a matter able to be transformed into a desk, I can say the wood is in potency to become a desk. But the wood becomes a desk when it receives the form of a desk. when the carpenter put into the wood his idea of this, the form of this, the determination. Huh? Don't forget form, determination. Huh? The wood is indeterminate to become anything, but the idea of wood, of this, is actualized. So we can say there is a relation between form and matter, act and potency. So potency, it is the capacity a being has to become something. A capacity to become. Potency. Huh? In Latin, possum, I can. Huh? Potens is present participle. Huh? So the capacity. But the capacity must be determined by an act. An act is the determination. The act is the perfection I put into the matter. It's the idea I put in the matter. Now we have a general idea. We go to the text to try to understand. Because the theory of act and potency is absolutely central in all philosophy. Already in philosophy of man, many times we use that concept. So it is central. As you study theology, you must know that absolutely. Because when we study God, we study that God is pure act, pure perfection. Why? Because in Him there is no potentiality, no potentiality, no potency. He is totally who He is. And we are not totally what we are, because we are not totally, absolutely perfect. So there is always a part in ourselves which is indeterminate, which is imperfect. Imperfect means not achieved, don't forget. Huh? Imperfect in Latin, in English, in Latin, in French, in non-perfect. And perfect comes the verb perficere, that means to make completely. Huh? To make completely. We are not made completely, we are imperfect. When we speak about imperfection, we don't speak about sin. Huh? It is, even the Virgin Mary was imperfect.
You're being taped, Father, I just want to remind you.
No, man, why I cannot say Mary is absolutely perfect. That means she was totally perfect, she was God. Only God is absolutely perfect. Then only God is pure act. And all creature is tending toward perfection, toward holiness. But this holy, I explained that the class before, holy, perfection, complete, you know. Interesting. But never we arrive to that. And we never arrive to the absolute perfection. Absolute, that means absolus, absolutus, solus, alone, by myself. No. I will always depend on an other. I will never arrive to the absolute perfection. To arrive to the absolute perfection is to become God. So we are condemned to be for eternity in potency. That means even in heaven we will not be perfect. That means we will not know everything. We will not. No. We have to learn. We never stop to know. We never stop to love. Because we are in potency. And we are for all our life, all eternity in potency. So I think we will not lose faith, because I said that Blessed Virgin Mary is not perfect. Metaphysically, she is a creature. She is not God. Therefore, she is in potency to receive the knowledge of God. Never she will know perfectly God. Only God can know perfectly God. But I thought you looked at me the late theory.
That means when we go to heaven, we're never going to be perfect? We won't be perfect in heaven.
It will never be metaphysically
because
perfect.
we won't be God.
Right.
If we are absolutely perfect, that means if we are only act without potency, you are God. Only God is pure
Okay,
act.
so we can never be. Okay.
So you will be always a creature. We are creature, and will be creature for all eternity. Therefore, will never be completely pure act.
I've been
So we're perfect in
But you will be maybe perfected. You will be perfected.
right, because we're perfect
And
in
not-
the image of God, right?
Not yes. Not absolutely perfect. That means there will be always a place, a space, I don't know, a degree between you and God.
Because we're perfect in the image of God, but only in accordance
Yes,
with
image.
God. Right.
Yes, but it's not God. The pure perfection, we continue to be a creature for all eternity. Well, we did that on philosophy.
All right.
So, potency is the capacity of to receive some perfection. So here is the relation passion. Remember when we studied relation action, passion and the category. Category passion, the category action. Act is the correlate of potency, the fully present realization or completion of potency. So potency is absence of total perfection, and act is the perfection put into the potency, into the being. Okay? For example, you are in potency to study metaphysics. When you will finish, you will be in act to know metaphysics perfectly.
Okay, let's say that.
Okay? Any capacity, in fact, any capacity. Okay, the act is a perfection, a determination. Okay? Next page. In fact, a form. In fact, the act is a kind of form, perfection. But that notion of act and potency, of course, is analogical. Is analogical notion. Every being is either in potency and act. But in the case of finite beings, what are the principles of every finite being? Finite, that means existing by another, finite, depending on another, or contingent. It is their composition of act and potency. That every creature will be forever made with potency and act for all eternity. And that is interesting, because as a philosopher, I can say, if my intellect is made with act and potency, my will is made with act and potency, so I cannot stop learning, I cannot stop loving. So I can say as a philosopher, I'm not a theologian, that for all eternity I will continue to know, I will continue to love more and more. Because I will know better, I will love better. But that is my theory. Maybe some theologians say we have statues. But for me, I think as a philosopher, if we are in potency, that means there is place for acquisition of perfection. Sometimes, someone they say, look, we are in the state, we stop there, and for all eternity we do not move. No, I respect that theory. For someone, there is no progress. When you die, it's finished. You are in potency, but you can do nothing. For me, it's almost contradictory to say that. If God make me in potency, there is nothing without a reason, sufficient reason. But you know, we'll see that after. You know the story of Saint Jean Bosco. Huh? Saint Jean Bosco, maybe if I repeat, forgive me. Huh? Saint Jean Bosco has a friend, when he was a seminarian, in major seminary, his friend died. But before he died, he said, you know, the first of both of us will die, will come back to say what happened on the other side. And when a night he was sleeping, and somebody, his friend, appeared to him. And John said, hey, what happened? And the other, at that time in Latin, he taught in Latin in the seminary. He said, totalitaire, alitaire. That means totally otherwise. What we teach in seminary, all that that is nothing. It's totally different. We don't know, but it's a totalitaire. So we can have thought about that. Huh? Will be dogs, cats. Why not? There will be a new creation. Huh? So we don't know. We can imagine what you want, but what you will find will be totally different of what anybody on earth thinks. That is a good surprise. Huh?
Great.
For the moment, let us continue to think from our categories. Because, you know, we cannot think about other categories than the category we know, substance and non-accidents. Huh? What happened after that? Another dimension. Totalitaire, alitaire. Think about that, and that be a consolation for you. When you try to find what happened after my death, the best answer is that. Surprise. It will be a total surprise. Yes. Like at Christmas, huh? Surprise. A beautiful surprise.
One long
Beautiful.
test.
Much better, totally much better than everything we can think. So imagine the best heaven, but that is nothing in comparison of the reality. Why? Because we have no reference to measure, to know. Okay? So it is an analogical concept. Okay. Number 33.2.3, intrinsic principle. The intimate relationship between potency and act is found in the context of being that does not exceed the limits of the categories. That means the limits of the finite beings. So when we speak here about act and potency, we are dealing with finite beings. Finite being, we see that in theology, natural theology, contingent being. 100 years ago, nobody among us existed. And I think in 100 years before, after, I am not sure we'll be here. Now, next paragraph. Man is made potency and act. Of course, God has no limit of perfection. He is pure act. Potency and act are, here we can correct, maybe it's not corrected, are incomplete principle of finite beings. Huh? I cannot say potency is alone. No, potency is not alone. Act is not alone. Both are together. All my life I will be composed by two co-principles. A principle of indetermination, my matter, my body. A principle of determination, my soul, with its powers, intellect and the will, and animating all my body. So potency and act are not things, but principle. And such that they are essentially incomplete. But there is an exception. After that, the form of my man is immortal, is continue to subsist. But that form is act and potency. My form is not pure act. My form is, for example, my intellect, my will, we are power of my form, of my soul. They don't know everything. They are not a perfect will. So that means there is always a mixture of potency and act, even in our spiritual faculties. My spiritual faculty, intellect and the will, are also made with act and potency. They are not pure perfection. Otherwise, I will not be obliged to study. If my soul was pure perfection, I will know everything without any potency. Why do you study? Why do we study? Because we don't know everything, but we are in potency to know. And we saw that we never finish to know because every being is able to be known. So we have all eternity to satisfy our curiosity. We never finish to ask questions to God. What is that? Huh? Why that happened? It would be interesting. Sometimes we can dream about that. Huh? We meet Aristotle and Plato, and we discussed with them. There was, about 25 years ago, on television, there was a program like that, you remember? Plato met St. Thomas Aquinas, met St. Augustine, and during 1 hour they discussed, you know. We can imagine, why not? I hope Plato is in heaven. I hope Aristotle is in heaven. We have to hope, no? It's interesting, in the Bible, can you find one passage where he said that somebody is in hell, except Satan? We know that people are in heaven. Abraham, Jacob, but nobody knows anybody in hell. It does not mean there is nobody, but we don't know. We don't know. Okay? That is theology, and if I continue to think in theology, I will welcome banana peel. Because I must respect my domain, philosophy, reason. Number 5, potency and act are corroborative. Corroborative. Robor in Latin means strength. Robor. Robust. Strong. Robor. Corroborative, they put together their strength. They work together. That's the meaning of that. They work together. They support one another. Potency is the indeterminate and perfectible element that looks to act as a determining and perfecting element. In fact, potency is hoping, desiring act. You don't only act can determine. So the potency is determinable, and act is determining. Determining. And as such, they are essentially incomplete. So since neither is able to claim more than an imperfect participation in the form of being. I cannot say, I am a body. I cannot say, I am a soul. I am made with body and soul. Both are constituting myself. I cannot say I am act. I cannot say I am potency. I am both. A mixture of act with potency. Yeah? It is the cause of my imperfection, but at the same time, the reason why I can progress. I can progress because I am not totally what I can be, or what I have to be. So there is a real distinction between both of them. The actual separation of act and potency proves beyond doubt the reality of their distinction. For example, the extensive distance between the concept of potency and act is alleged as a proof for the real distinction. Why? Because the concept of each act and potency stands diametrically opposed to that of the other. One is determining, the other is determinable. One is a principle of perfection, the other is waiting to receive a perfection. Okay? So we cannot, you cannot identify both. Both live together, they are attached together in every finite being, but they are different, independent of my reason. It's not a distinction of reason, it's a real distinction. It is not my mind that put the distinction between act and potency, or matter and form. They are there. It is the genius of Aristotle to have discovered that. For me, one of the most important discoveries in the world is the discovery of matter and form, isomorphism, act and potency. And it is so true that our language is soaked with that. For example, you use the word actual. What is the word actual? Real, huh? That means it wasn't potency. No, it's no more than potency. It is actual. It is real. That comes from Aristotle. Form, transform. Our language is filled with the philosophy of the Greek. We don't realize that. But in fact, we speak a language which is originating from Aristotle and Plato and Socrates. And when we speak about ideas, even the word ideas. So there exists no ground on which this opposition can be resolved. They are totally and forever, for all eternity, opposed. That means if I am a creature, if I am a finite being, for all eternity I will be composed with potency and act. And that is common sense, because if I affirm like that, I go to heaven and God said, okay, no more potency, you are pure act.
You're God.
So that is called pantheism. Huh? Pantheism. If you deny potency, after that you fall into pantheism. Because if I am pure act, I am God. I am one with God. There is no distinction with God. There is the same substance. In fact, we are not far from the theory of Spinoza. Huh? Spinoza, there is only one substance. Everything is the same. Pantheism, to the New Age. Huh?
But Father, isn't it believed that when you're in heaven, you're not a finite being when you're in heaven?
I am not a finite being.
When you're in heaven.
Yes, I am always, forever, a finite being.
You're not an infinite being.
And never. What is infinite? No limit.
Right.
No limit of perfection. If you have no limit of perfection, you depend on nobody. You have all perfection. If you have all perfection, who are you? God.
Right.
So in heaven.
But you have no limit of existence.
Yeah, no limit. Yes, we continue to live forever. But we continue to live as a creature, not as a God. We continue to be creature. The Blessed Virgin Mary is a creature. Saint Peter, Saint John, all the saints are creatures. Forever. Okay? It's not an insult, but I say that is the truth. Okay? The truth. Eternity is infinite. But we continue to be a finite being in the infinite. Because we are finite being, I repeat, there is room, possibility for progress. That is my theory. Or maybe some are right when they say, if you have a certain degree of love, you will be for all eternity the same degree of love, the same degree of knowledge. I don't want to discuss that. I prefer the theory saying that every finite being, because it is for eternity in potency, there is progress. God can every day give us a class of philosophy. Because we never finish to know Him. So we'll be around the 5th millennium lecture, and we never finish to know Him.
Surprise.
Okay, well, when you will think about that, huh? What I tell you today, when you arrive in front of St. Peter, you say, Father Legault was right. Huh? Surprise. You'll be there. Beautiful surprise. Beautiful surprise. Okay. Okay, next page, page 222. Number 33.4. Oh, okay, that distinction is not only conceptual, it's ontological between between act and potency. Now, in the order of knowledge, and what is the first? What is the first? Is the first the potency, or is the first act? So first, in in knowledge, act has a natural priority over potency. We know the being in act before we know it as potency. For example, you cannot know what a cat can do before you have to know him in act, and from his act, his action, his activity, what he is, you can find his potency to be a good mice hunter. Because potency signifies possibility, and the measure of the knowableness of an entity depends on its actuality. Potency can be known only through the act that this is fulfillment. How I can know that among you Some are in potency to be priest or some potency to be deacon. I will know that only the day of your ordination. As long as you are not ordained a priest or you are not ordained a deacon, for me you are simply possible. We are in potency because we know the thing is in act. So I can say, you know, when I was teaching to the future deacon, my future deacon, they were not only in potency, they were not in the simple possible, they were in potency. I cannot say that, only God can do that. But I can say, yeah, you are in potency, you know. But it's not absolutely true. You can die tomorrow. No. It's not for you. Huh? You can, I don't know what happens. No, but I know you are in potency from the fact you are in act. Okay? Secondly,
So you know, you could be to be a chicken, you would have had to lay the egg.
Yeah, and that's a special case. Good.
Which came first?
So that is the level of knowledge. But the level of being, ontological, next paragraph. Potency usually has a natural and a temporal priority over act, in the sense that potency is generally the subject of act and therefore pre-exists in some way. In fact, ontologically, if you become priest or deacon, today you are in potency to become a deacon, to become a priest. So that is in the domain of ontological order. But I don't know. I don't know. But ontologically, I must say that. For example, Paul VI, just before he died, he told his secretary, who was an Irish bishop, and he told him that he was 12 years old when he made his first communion. He was in white. His father was a friend of Sarto, Cardinal Sarto, who became Pius X. So he visited his friend, Cardinal Sarto, and he took with him Giovanni Battista. And at the end of the meeting, Cardinal Sarto, the future Pius X, he said, you know, John Battista, you will become a pope. And he said, he revealed that only a few weeks before he died. In fact, he was a pope in potency. Only God knew. Maybe Cardinal Sarto, Pius X said that as a joke, or he was inspired by the Holy Spirit, you know. But we cannot know. We cannot know. But we must affirm that at the ontological point of view, you must be in potency before being in act. Okay? God knows. We suppose. So what we can say, it is possible. It is possible, but we have no certitude as long as the act is not realized, actualized. In fact, the actualization destroy the ignorance or destroy the incertitude. Now, viewed absolutely in itself, act is prior to potency, even in the ontological order. Why? Because the only source that can effect a transfer from potency to act is a being already directly in act. That means I am sure that every passage from potency to act must be preceded by a being in act. A being in act. If that being in act is in potency to produce something. For example, when I was born, I became in act too, a human being. I was before me, but that supposed before me there was a being in act two to be able to make me exist. You know? In fact, it is the principle of causality. When something passes from potency to act, there must be a cause. For example, if you become a deacon, you become a deacon because a bishop consecrates you, ordains you. You know? You become a priest because the bishop ordained you. So I became a man because I have a father and a mother. But they must be in act. And that is important because if you go to the infinite, you arrive the first man and the first woman, you must say, if they exist, they must be made by a being, and that being must be only in act. Because if in potency, we continue. And that is the proof, one of the proof of the existence of God, from potency to act. And there is some act in potency, being an act to make me pass from potency to act. For example, when you enter the class, you were in potency to know what is, for example, act in potency. But you need a book, or you need a teacher, or you need something. They're already in act. I am in act to know, I hope. Because if I don't do, it's difficult to make you understand. That is the teaching. A teacher, what he's doing is making his student passing from potency to act. And potency to know mathematics, or to know physics, or to know chemistry, to know history, to know philosophy, into the act of knowing. Okay? So you see, the theory of act and potency is universal. We can apply that to every finite being. It's one of the most fundamental theory in metaphysics. Number 4. Potency is the principle of act's limitation. Well, that means potency is that which limits act. It's funny to say that. Potency limits the perfection. Well, in fact, in itself, act, or if you want, perfection, is the concept of perfection imply some limits, some limitation? Is in the concept of perfection there is limitation? No. The concept of perfection does not imply any limitation. It's the reason why God is infinitely perfect. So if, for us, the concept of the perfection is limited, it is not because of the perfection itself. It is not because of the act itself. It is because of the potency which is received the act. So the limitation of the cause is not in the cause necessarily, it is in the receiver. A teacher teaches mathematics, algebra. I taught algebra. And someone understands rapidly, soon after they go out and they have the eye of a fish in the aquarium. They don't understand nothing. Why they don't understand? Is this because of the teacher? Because of the condition of the receiver. Everything is received according to the disposition of the receiver. Well, suppose you are sick, you have fever, and you are invited to a banquet. You go to the banquet, they present you, beautiful, the best meal. Will you eat them? No. You are sick. The recipient, the one who receives, the receiver, has not the disposition to receive. And that is excessively important in communication, in teaching, in preaching, in writing. You can say the same thing to two persons. One is very happy and the other is furious. In your parish you can preach and some people say, "Hey Father, you were wonderful." But the other, "Father, I will not come back to the church, I don't agree with you." We say that in the gospel, no? Jesus did something, people say, "Hallelujah, Magnificat, glory to God," and the other is, "Oh, you do that by the power of Satan, Beelzebub." You know, that is very, very important. The perfection is not limited by itself. The perfection is limited by the receiver, the potency. And that is important when you teach, when you preach. Not only to know what you will say, but to know the people who will listen to you. William James, the American philosopher, I repeat that because for me it's like a first principle in pedagogy. If you want to teach Latin, John, you must know John. Not Latin, John. Even if you know Latin, John is not ready to listen to you. It's a waste of time, waste of money. So that is a universal principle. It's the same for the grace of God. The Holy Spirit is given, someone accepts, others don't accept. That's it. It is universal. So the limitation, the potency is self-limited. It's not the act in itself has no limit. A perfection in itself has no limit. If there is a limit, it is because of the potency which receives that perfection. Okay? In Latin, here, if you like Latin, quid recipitur, and modum recipientis recipitur. Everything is received according to the mode of the one who receives. Okay? Now, the relationship between essence and existence. This is another very important thing to see in metaphysics. So we spoke first about matter, act and potency. Now we speak about essence and existence. Okay. But what is the essence of a thing? We saw that when we studied logic, with the definition of a thing. The whatness, remember? The whatness of a thing, the quidity, the quidity of a thing. The definition, the quidity, the whatness. We say, we call it, I told you, we also call that essence when we compare essence with existence. So the definition, when we ask, is existence implied in the definition? So the definition is the essence of a thing. And existence is the fact that the essence exists outside of the mind, in the reality. For example, man. What is the essence of man according to Aristotle? Rational animal. 1 billion years ago, did man exist? In act? No. But was the essence of man existing?
God.
Yes, eternally. And that is, we join Plato, Mr. Plato, the eternal idea. The ideas are eternal. And because of that, Plato said the idea as the first reality. The idea of horse is here, not the horse in the field, that is the shadow of the horse. Plato. But in fact, yes, the essence is eternal. I mean, the concept of man, the concept of rabbit, the concept of cat is eternal. As long as there is a mind to think about that, the mind of that, know what is a cat. Even he can know what is a leprechaun and what is a cyclops. God knows for eternity what is a cyclops. You know that. But he never put the cyclops into existence. So there is a difference between essence and existence. And the existence is not implied into the essence. So if we make a comparison between essence and existence and act and potency, what is in potency? What is in potency? Sense. For all eternity, the idea of rational element was there in potency. And a day, man existed, so man received as existence, it was actualized. It was actualized. So that means existence is not implied in the definition of a thing. I can think about a thing, the thing does not exist. In philosophy, we are not in mathematics. In mathematics, we can live in the abstract level. But in philosophy, in fact, philosophy is much more concrete than people think. Because we deal with the reality of being. What is the more concrete reality in the universe is being, existence. But for all eternity, the essence of man existed. It is confirmed by the Bible. I know you from before your birth, before your conception. Yeah, that's in the Bible. God knows us for all eternity. So everything that did exist was first in essence and potency. Everything as in, what is the essence? The definition of a thing. Definition of a thing. A reality. That reality, that definition, does not imply existence. I cannot define man. Man is a rational animal existing. I cannot say that. I can say man is a rational being having received existence. We receive existence. So the definition of the nature of essence and existence as principle of being is very similar to the notion of act and potency. What I am doing here, what is that? Analogy. You remember, continually we refer to analogy. And the fundamental first is act and potency. Act and potency. And act and potency, we said that before, it was inspired by matter and form. Page 223, the third reflection. In themselves, essence and existence are principles of being, like act and potency. I can say every being existing, subsisting, is a mixture, a composite of essence and existence. Each of them principle is incapable by itself to produce a total result. Only God can say, I exist. In God, essence and existence are one. There it is. You cannot say that. I cannot say I am. Is the reason why it's not right to say with Mr. Descartes, I think. I think something about something, you know. The pure thing, man has no pure thing. We have the thing, an object. 4. Viewed in isolation from existence, essence signifies a mode or manner according to which reality might be fashioned. That means, you know, essence. Man is a rational animal. That rational animal can be fashioned, exist in many manners. It can be exist in Africa, in North America, it can be white, it can be black, it can be a caveman, it can be a scientist, all that, you know. But what makes man is rationality, here in animality, but existence is make outside of only the concept. The concept is not is no more a pure concept. The concept becomes a reality. It is exactly the same thing as when you planning. You prepare a celebration, a feast. You have a planning. You know exactly. Will your planning be realized exactly? Maybe, maybe not. That means there is no link essentially between essence and existence. And that problem is important because in France, after the war, 1949-50, some philosophers we call existentialists, especially atheists, take as existentialists. One of the most important is Jean-Paul Sartre. His philosophy is based on that. He said, First, I exist. I exist. And now I take my responsibility and I make my own essence. I decide who I will be. And that is very serious, because if you do that, you are in a complete relativism. I decide. I make my essence. No. First, do you exist by yourself? No. You receive existence. And when you receive existence, you don't receive existence in the abstract world. You receive existence in your species, in a particular situation, and for you it is rational animal. Your cat is another species, because your cat also receives existence. So the problem of essential existence is very important, because if you determine your essence, that means you are the master of your morality, of your destiny. You make the moral order. You yourself give the whole meaning of your life. You can decide what is right, what is bad. In one of these novels, we have a man who does, I spoke about that, a total free act. And for him, the total free act, he takes his gun, he enters a train, and he kills at random many people. And after that, he says, I am free. I am free. And that is the concept, freedom based on the fact that I give myself an essence. No, I have an essence. I am determined by nature. In fact, if you say that, you deny nature. Because what is nature? Is this the essence as principle of activity. You remember that? Nature is the principle, nature as principle of activity. So I don't make my nature, I receive my nature with my existence. In fact, it is here to become independent of that, to deny our contingency. But you know, that theory is completely abandoned. Jean-Paul Sartre was a member of the Communist Party, and he was rejected. Not only rejected by philosophers, he was rejected by the population, because there were 40 high school or college in France called Jean-Paul Sartre, and they changed the name. And I went to the cemetery where he is, in Paris, not far where I was living, and Jean-Paul Sartre, the little flower, the thing. People rejected him, like Heidegger was rejected, because he was the philosopher, official philosopher of the Nazi party. So we cannot accept that, those things. Jean-Paul Sartre defended freedom. At the same time, he was official member of the Communist Party, and he approved the crushing of Prague in 1968. He approved that. So people say, if you defend freedom, after that you suppress freedom. So he was, you know, many philosophers are totally abandoned. Lacan, for example, in France, Lacan, young great psychiatrist, you know that, Althusser. And you have other, the other, I forgot the name. They were abandoned completely. You know, I lived that period as a student, as a teacher. And for me, it was fashion. You know, like the mini skirt. In fact, it's difficult to create really a new system of philosophy. The Greek almost discovered everything. We have to repeat that, you know. What is important, it is not the date of the book. I don't like, personally, I am allergic, personally, when they say the value of a book depends on the date. At that time, put aside the Bible. For me, the value of a book does not depend on the date, it depends on the idea in the book. In some idea can be written in 1940, it can be excellent. In some idea written in 1999, it can be totally stupid. So that, for me, because sometimes I listen to that. Oh, You know, all the old book, put aside the old book. No. The wisdom is for every time. It's not for the new. So many times the new book, you know, when the pedagogue, the really great pedagogue, Spock, you know, Mr. Spock. I remember in my family, someone read Spock, oh, Spock, and she wanted to educate her children like Spock, you know. By the way, the son of Spock suicided. You know? And another book also, the book of Margaret Mead, about sexuality and the report, Kingsley report. They have a great influence. But we cannot say, because it was written in 1999, in 1970, it is better than the book written in 1845. Of course, in some domain, in physics, in chemistry, but in philosophy, I cannot say that the wisdom of St. Thomas is no more good because it was written in the 13th century. And the wisdom of Sartre is much better because it was written in 1960. So that is my opinion. Personally, I am allergic to the date. I don't like that. I know, some places they want to get rid of the old book and they say the criterion is the newness. It is new. It is new. Well, sometimes it is stupid also. You know, Lacan, he has a great influence. I remember that very well. I was in Paris at that time. He was very popular. He was a psychiatrist and he had 10 analyses an hour. Totally stupid. And he wrote a book, he laughed at his student. And Althusser, he killed his wife. So, you know, mode, fashion, be careful. It's the same in theology. It's not because the last one wrote a thing that is the truth. The truth is not because of the name of the person. It's not because of the date. It is because of the content. That is a parenthesis. Number 8. Existence is not a form but an act. To exist is an act. So, of course, there is an analogy between form and matter, and act and potency. But don't forget, it is an analogy. And the act, the form is a quality, the act is life, for example, is actual existence. So all that are based on analogy. That means we can find something different, but we can find something new. Okay, so in fact the existence is the act par excellence, and page 224, the distinction between them I think is not very difficult. And you have 3 proof of that. Okay. I will only say a thing about the importance of that, you know, for a philosopher, Hegel. Hegel said something which is at the foundation of this philosophy. He said everything which is real is rational, and everything which is rational is real. It is not in your book, but I say that. Everything which is rational is real. Can we accept that? It is because something is rational that is necessarily real. What is the criterion of truth? Is it necessarily the rationality? No, it is the reality. I can have a beautiful planning, I told that to you a few minutes ago, and it will never exist. I remember I wrote a paper in 1966-67 about seminaries. I used some statistics. And when I think about that 60 years after, I was stupid. Because I projected from some statistics, and all those beautiful plans never was realized. Because 1968 happened between the revolution from California, all the sex revolution, all the LSD, all those things, and that the situation can change completely. So, you know, we cannot accept that what we think corresponds to what it is. But we must say what I think must correspond to what it is. In fact, I don't make the truth, but I receive the truth from the thing. I receive the truth. I don't make the truth. I receive the truth. Because what makes me true? It is the objective word we enter me. For example, you see somebody giving money to a poor. You see that, okay? And you tell to your wife or tell to your parents, you know, that man is very generous. I saw her, I saw him giving money to the poor. If you say that, how it can be true? Because it is correspond to the reality. It is not because you think that at least. No, only God can say that. Only God can say thing exists because I think. Before us, we think because the thing exists. Before, so we receive. We receive existence. We receive the act of existence. And next class we will study a little bit the same style, the substance and accident. And it is similar. There is many similarity between that. So try to understand matter and form and matter, act and potency, existence and essence. And after that we'll see substance and accident. And okay, have a good weekend.
Thank you, Father.
Can you